My security badge beeped red at the hospital gate. I swiped it again. Red. Mr. Uche, the night guard, frowned at the scanner. We'd done this dance every evening at 6:45 p.m. for 7 years. He knew something I didn't yet. Madam Amaka. He wouldn't look at me. They say I should take you to HR first. My stomach dropped. Not good evening. Not how are you. Just they say. I nodded slowly. My hands were shaking, so I put them in my pockets. As we walked through the hospital compound, I passed nurses I'd covered for. Doctors whose paperwork I'd rushed through at 3 a.m. They all suddenly had somewhere else to be. Sister Ngozi, who I'd helped get her promotion last year, pretended to read a chart. That's when I knew. This was how they did it. No confrontation. No scene. Just disappear the problem quietly. My name is Amaka Nwoy. For 7 years, I was the night shift administrator at St. Bridget's General Hospital. On paper, I managed schedules and handled paperwork. In reality, I was the person who kept patients alive when systems failed. When NEPA took the light at 2 a.m., I didn't call maintenance and wait. I went to the generator room myself, checked the diesel level, manually switched the connection, and got power back before the ICU machines went silent. When a patient needed emergency surgery but the approval was stuck on some manager's desk, I knew which doctor's signature could substitute. I knew which forms could be processed retroactively. I knew how to save a life first and fix the paperwork later. The day staff called me the night shift queen. I thought it was a compliment. But looking back, I realize what they really meant was, she'll handle it. We don't have to. Mrs. Adebayo was my supervisor. She ran the day administration from an office with working AC, a water dispenser that was always full, and a door she could close when she wanted silence. She worked 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. sharp. Never stayed a minute extra. One morning, I'd just finished a brutal 14-hour shift. A patient had coded twice. The morgue fridge had broken down. I'd spent 3 hours coordinating transfers while the smell got worse. I came to her office to request 2 days off to recover. She looked up from her computer, smiled softly, and said, "You're strong, Amaka. That's why I trust you with nights. Some people couldn't handle what you do." It sounded kind. It wasn't. Strong became the word they used to justify everything. Strong meant, take the extra shift, you can handle it. Strong meant, your leave can wait, someone weaker needs it more. Strong meant, don't complain, it makes you look ungrateful. My contract said 8 hours per shift, 5 days a week. I was working 13-hour nights, 6 days a week. And I never said no. Because in Nigeria, jobs are not easy to find. And single mothers with sick children can't afford to be difficult. So I swallowed it. Every single time. At home, I had a son. Chibuzo. 9 years old. Smart as a whip. Loved science and asked questions about everything. He also had severe asthma. The kind where harmattan dust could send him to the hospital. Where a bad night meant sitting up watching him breathe, counting the seconds between inhales, wondering if this would be the time I'd need to rush him to emergency. My mother helped. She lived with us, cooked his meals, walked him to school. But she couldn't replace me. I would leave the house at 5:30 p.m., before Chibuzo finished his homework. I'd return at 8 a.m., after he'd already left for school. On my off days, those rare Sundays, I'd try to make up for lost time. We'd go to the park. I'd help with his school project. We'd cook together. But he was starting to pull away. One Saturday he asked, "Mummy, why do you love work more than me?" I had no answer. I just held him and cried. I kept telling myself, just 1 more year. Save a little more money. Then I'll find something better. But 1 more year became 7. It was a Thursday night. Quiet shift. Around 9 p.m., my personal phone rang. Not the hospital line. My small Nokia that only family called. Mrs. Okafor, our neighbor. Her voice was shaking. "Amaka, Chibuzo collapsed during prep class. They said his inhaler didn't work. They've taken him to Bridge Clinic. My heart stopped. I grabbed my bag, told the nurse on duty I had an emergency, and headed straight to Mrs. Adebayo's office. I knocked. She was inside, door locked, probably watching a movie on her phone like she did most nights. "Ma, please. My son collapsed. They say his breathing is bad. I need to go." She looked at me over her glasses. Not with cruelty. Just inconvenience. "Amaka, we're already short tonight. Dr. Amaka called in sick. If you leave, who will coordinate admissions? Ma, my son might stop breathing." She sighed, the way you sigh at a toddler asking for something unreasonable. "I understand this is hard. But this job requires sacrifice, Amaka. We all make sacrifices. Can your mother handle it?" Something inside me snapped. Not with anger. With clarity. "I'm leaving," I said. She sat up straight. "If you walk out of here tonight, Amaka, there will be consequences. This will go in your file." I looked at her one last time. "Write whatever you want." And I left. Bridge Clinic was small, crowded, and smelled like bleach and panic. Chibuzo was on a bed in the corner, oxygen mask on his face, chest rising and falling too fast. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. Not from pain. From relief. I sat beside him, held his small hand, and whispered, "Mummy is here. Mummy is here now." He fell asleep around midnight, fingers still wrapped around mine. My mother arrived with a flask of food I couldn't eat. She didn't scold me. She just sat on the other side of the bed and prayed quietly. For 7 years, I'd chosen the job. I told myself I was providing for him, securing our future, being responsible. But that night, watching him breathe, I realized something terrible. What's the point of providing for a child who grows up without you? I stayed with him all night. For the first time in 7 years. When I returned to work 2 days later, I knew things would be different. But I didn't expect how petty it would be. My desk, the one near the window where I could see the gate, had been moved to the back corner near the supply closet. Dark. Hot. No ventilación. My chair, the good one with back support that I'd bought myself because the hospitals were broken, had been replaced with a wobbly stool. My nameplate was gone. Nobody said anything. Then the email came. Subject, query, abandonment of duty. They called it abandonment. Not family emergency. Not medical crisis. Abandonment. I was given 48 hours to respond in writing, explaining why I should not be disciplined. I sat in that dark corner, stared at the email, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not fear. Anger. I wrote back. One line. I left to save my son's life. If that is a crime, I accept whatever consequences you choose. Then I made a decision. From that day forward, I would do exactly what my contract said. Nothing more. 8 hours. 5 days. As written. The first night, Dr. Amaka came rushing to my desk at 2 a.m. "Amaka, we need an emergency surgical approval. The patient's family can't reach the medical director. Can you push it through like last time?" I looked up from my report. "Dr. Amaka, that's not in my job description. You'll need to call the medical director directly." He blinked. "But, it's 2 a.m. He won't answer." "Then you'll need to wait until morning. Or follow the proper escalation protocol." He stared at me like I'd spoken Chinese. "Amaka, a patient could die. Then the hospital should have a better system." He walked away, confused and frustrated. An hour later, the generator failed. The nurses panicked, called my line. "Madam Amaka, NEPA has taken light. The generator is not coming on." "Have you called maintenance?" "Yes, but they're not answering." "Then call the chief security officer. That's the protocol." "But madam, I don't handle generators. That's not my job." Silence. "Madam, you always handle it." "I used to. I don't anymore." Within a week, night shifts started falling apart. Delays. Confusion. Things that used to get fixed in minutes now took hours. The nurses whispered, Amaka has changed. The doctors complained, she's not cooperating anymore. Nobody asked why. 3 weeks later, I was called to HR. The room was cold. Literally. The AC was on full blast. 3 people sat across from me, Mrs. Adebayo, the HR manager, and someone from admin I'd never seen before. The HR manager spoke first. Miss Ngoy, we've reviewed your recent performance. There have been concerns about your commitment and attitude. I said nothing. Mrs. Adebayo jumped in, her voice softer, almost apologetic. Amaka, we know you're going through a difficult time at home. But the hospital has to come first. We've decided to restructure your role. Effective immediately, your position has been made redundant. 7 years of holding this place together, and I was redundant. I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally understood the game. For 7 years, I said quietly, this hospital ran on my back. I worked 13-hour shifts for 8-hour pay. I fixed problems that weren't mine to fix. I saved lives that nobody else wanted to save at 3 a.m. Mrs. Adebayo shifted uncomfortably. And you called it strength, I continued. But it wasn't strength. It was just free labor. I stood up, pulled my ID badge from my neck, and placed it gently on the table. You're not firing me. I'm accepting that you never valued me. And I walked out. Outside the hospital gate, the sun was setting. Orange and pink across the Lagos sky. I hadn't seen a sunset in 7 years. I took a Danfo bus home. It was crowded, hot, smelled like sweat and fried akara. And I didn't care. When I got home, Chibuzo was doing homework at the dining table. He looked up, confused. Mummy? You're home? It's not Sunday. I dropped my bag, sat beside him, and hugged him tight. I'm home, baby. I'm home for good now. He hugged me back, still confused but happy. That night, I cooked dinner. We ate together. We watched cartoons. I helped him with his math homework. And for the first time in 7 years, I went to bed at 10 p.m. I slept for 9 hours straight. 1 month later, I got a text from Sister Ngozi. Amaka, have you seen the news? I checked online. St. Bridget's Hospital under investigation after night shift failures. A patient had died because approvals took 6 hours. Another surgery was delayed because nobody could get the generator working when power failed. Families were complaining. The medical director was under pressure. 3 days later, Mrs. Adebayo called me. Not email. Not official channels. My personal phone. Amaka. Hello. How are you? I almost laughed. I'm well, Ma. That's good. That's good. Listen, we've been having some challenges at night. The new administrator is struggling. We wondered if you'd consider coming back. We can discuss better terms. No. Silence. Amaka, please. Just think about it. We can increase your... Mrs. Adebayo, I found peace. I won't trade it for money. But you were so good at... I was good at surviving a bad system. I don't want to survive anymore. I want to live. I hung up. She didn't call again. Today, I work as an admin assistant at a small shipping company. 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. I'm home for dinner every night. I walk Chibuzo to school 3 times a week. Last month, he won 2nd place in his school science fair. I was there to see it. I earn less money now, but I have more life. St. Bridget's eventually hired 2 people to replace me. They paid them more than they ever paid me, because that's how it works. Some systems don't fall apart until the person they were exploiting walks away, and when that person chooses themselves, the system calls it betrayal. But here's the truth. They didn't need me to be strong. They needed me to be silent. And I'm done being both. If you're the person everyone relies on, if you're the one who never says no, if your strength is being used against you, remember this. A system that only works because someone is suffering quietly is not a system worth saving. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not weak for setting boundaries. You are not ungrateful for demanding respect. Your badge might stop working, but your life will finally start.